Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second day of the International Conference on Mekong Ganga Development in Regional Transition and Uncertainty. The first session is a plenary session on the topic of poverty in the inequity world. And we have three plenary speakers, including Professor Dr. Catherine Barron from Toulouse University, Associate Professor Dr. Gunokwan Manorom from Ubon Ratchathani University, and Associate Professor Dr. Amita Motwani from University of Delhi. And the session will be facilitated by Dr. Thanachet Visaijon from Ubon Ratchathani University. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the first plenary session. And may I invite now Dr. Thanachet Visaijon on the stage, please.
Okay, so all the speakers are ready. So I would like to invite all the speakers on the panel. And I will introduce later. Screen's over there. Please have a seat. Yes, thank you very much, Ajahn Ko. So first of all, I have to say good morning to you all, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests, all the lecturers and the students at the Ubon Ratchathani University, and welcome to day 2 of the 2024 International Conference on the Mekong Ganga Development in Regional Transition and Uncertainty. Over here, you placed hotel. It's the hotel of our university. And I am Thanachet Visaijon from the Faculty of Political Science, Ubon Ratchathani University, and I will be moderating the panel today. Again, this academic conference is co-hosted by 2 centers. The first center is the Mekong Sub-Region Social Research Center at the Faculty of Liberal Arts, Ubon Ratchathani University, and also is hosted by the India Study Center at the Faculty of Political Science, Ubon Ratchathani University. And of course, the topic today is very pressing issue in the world of uncertainty, as we've just been through the time of COVID-19 pandemic, and it's talk about poverty. The term of poverty, and when it's linked with the 2 regions, the Mekong and the Ganga, I think it's interesting in the case that when the term poverty is defined by World Bank, the level of income is used to measure the level of poverty, but the 2 regions, the Ganga region and the Mekong region, originally we have different kind of meaning of poverty. If we translate directly to the language in Thai, poverty, poor, to be poor, it means ยากจน but when it's translated into Lao language or into คำเมือง language, I think Jonathan Rick has been conducting research in Laos, and he's translated that poverty in Laos, it means ทุกข์ or ทุกข์ ทุกข์ means to be miserable, which is different from what World Bank define ทุกข์ in Thai. In Sanskrit is linked in Sanskrit, which is in Mekong Ganga region. In Sanskrit, tuk is dukkha. So when you say you are poor, you say you are dukkha. And when you're rich in this region, in Lao language, let's forget about the Chao Phraya region. In Lao language, when you say rich, you say hang mi. If you translate hang mi to English, it means that you are the haves. So this is 2 connotation of the 2 terms, and I think it can be linked together with the 2 regions of Ganga and Mekong region, bypassing the Chao Phraya basin. And today we have our distinguished guests and speakers which are famous for the research on poverty. I would introduce briefly. First of all, please allow me to introduce Associate Professor Dr. Amita Motwani from Jesus and Mary College, University of Delhi. Please give a big hand. Dr. Motwani's research interest is about the discourse on poverty and practices of poverty alleviation in India, as well as social justice. And second, I would like to introduce Professor Catherine Barron from Toulouse University. Please give her a big hand. Her research is about the development and government resource and also access to water, and examples all around the world have been conducted as her case study. And last but not least, our associate professor and soon to be professor, Ajahn Professor Gunokwan Manorom from the Faculty of Liberal Arts. And I think everyone knows her very well because her research is very famous. It's about gender on the Mekong River, and also many books have been published. For example, one is called in Thai, but it can be translated to English as Mekong Anthology. That's very famous as well. And so, the first session today, I would like to welcome all the speakers to share their insight and experience on poverty around the world. I would like to present and I would ask one of the presenters to present and give example from the world and general overview of poverty first. So I will start with Professor Barro to share your point of view about the poverty and also about case study that you have experienced around the world. Please.
Hello to everybody. For my presentation, how do I get to the...
Yes, the slides are ready.
Oh, okay. So my name is Catherine Barron. I'm a professor at Political Science Institute of Toulouse. So a lot of connections with your own institute. I'm here as invited professor by Professor Kano Kwan. So I'm very happy because I teach also to some students at the university, which was very, very interesting for me. And I would like to talk today not about poverty, but about inequalities. Because yesterday we talked a lot about poverty, so I just focus on another concept and focusing even more on the link between inequalities and access to natural resources, especially water resources. So I will do my presentation on this issue, particular issue, and I will focus also on a specific conceptual framework, which is called the common approach. Maybe you know already, but I will do some presentation on this very interesting approach and how this approach is leading to new innovative policies, water policies, for more justice, as social justice, but also environmental justice. I've been working a lot for the last 30 years in African contexts, so I decided today to present a case study from Africa, because you don't know, and maybe some of you do, but most of you don't know maybe. So it may be interesting to have a kind of different case study than what you know. I could have also taken a case study in Indonesia, which is closer to you, but well, I decided to take this case study. So first of all, I find this picture quite interesting because it shows environmental inequalities, but not environmental inequalities from the only environmental point of view, but environmental inequalities concerning and in relation with economic models. Meaning that we know that the ecological footprint is very high in many countries, but it depends on regions. And what you see on this slide is that the regions where the ecological footprint is the worst are in the northern regions. Meaning that the link with the economic model, but also with ways of living, is very connected to this ecological footprint. So inequalities, very often we present poor countries, so-called poor countries, as the ones who are impacted by environmental disasters, but very often we forget why these countries are impacted by disasters. So this picture shows that the responsibility of Western countries in this kind of situation. If you see Africa, Africa is green, but usually when you present this, you present Africa as a very poor country impacted by disaster. That's the only side of the story. Then I just mentioned this. There was this very interesting report from Oxfam, which was showing and highlights how gas emissions generated were linked with incomes. In fact, the more you earn, the more impact you have on environmental and ecological issues. So here also you have this kind of, unequal repartition in the world between rich and poorest people, because as this report shows, the richest 1% emits as much as the poorest 2/3 of humanity. So very unequal situation. And if you look at India, for instance, I took this picture from India, we can see also, if we focus on urban areas, even in very close urban areas, you see that the rich neighborhoods have a less impact of environmental issues than in very poor areas as slum areas. So it's very interesting to see that poverty is a way of addressing these questions, but inequalities is also maybe a more specific way to address this kind of question, going very deep in the analysis. I took some pictures in African context. I've been working a lot in this part of Africa that we call, can I use this? No? The desert, Saharan context, where the temperatures are getting higher and higher, and where people are living this kind of area because it's too hot, and they cannot produce anything anymore. They cannot even live in this context. And the environmental issues in this context are both a lot of heat, but also floodings. So you have a lack of water and too much water at very different periods. So I think this kind of context is very specific. So as I told you, now I'm going to present a kind of conceptual framework that I'm using, which is called the common approach, referring to an economist, but she's also a political science academic. Her name is very famous. Her name is Elinor Ostrom, that you may know, and she got the Nobel Prize for her work. It's an innovative concept because it's related, it can be related. She didn't do it, but most of the scholars do it these days. It's a concept in relation with social and environmental justice. So that's why I use it. So the question that I was asking in this presentation is, to what extent this approach is useful to discuss the issues of inequalities and social and environmental justice in the global south? And is it only an academic discussion, or does it impact public policies, especially public water policies, as I'm working on water issues? What is interesting with this approach is that at the very beginning, this approach is a kind of participatory approach. It focuses on local grassroots association participation, and with this concept that Elinor Ostrom elaborated, which is community-based management resources. So this was the very beginning. But then this concept was also used for citizen mobilization, so a more political aspect that Elinor Ostrom did not mention in her work. So a lot of NGOs, activists, in France at least, are using this framework to explain mobilization, social mobilization, and all these kind of issues. But now there is another meaning, which is a more specific one, and which is used by some NGOs, especially in France, which is using the commons to try to analyze how you can address to public policy, to public authorities. How can you impact not only at the grassroots level, but also how you can impact public policies. You see? And the term that we used is shared governance, meaning involving public, local authorities in managing water resources, and elaborated new models, innovative model focusing more on equity and justice. Is it clear, or is it too? Yes? So I did just a summarize of these different ways of talking about the commons, because we are talking about common goods, commons, and commoning today. So on the left, on the very left, I put some keywords from Ostrom's framework, which was the first one, and with a very well-known book on the commons. In fact, it's what we call today traditional commons, focusing on natural resources. So as I told you, at the beginning, it was only focusing on environmental issues and the way of governing natural resources as water. She did a lot of works on water. She elaborated a very complex framework to analyze many case studies all around the world. She had so many students doing their PhD on many different fieldworks all over the world, in Africa, South America, Asia. And she elaborated this framework, which is called, very well-known, Institutional Analysis and Development Framework, focusing on institutions, because she's from this. So I will go further. Then we have what we are calling today the new commons. The new commons, meaning that some scholars go beyond only natural resources, and they focus more on what we call immateriality, like informational commons. Internet, for instance. Internet could be understood as a common good that everyone share for free, for instance. But it's not for free, but it's supposed to be for free. We could give as example knowledge. Knowledge is supposed also to be common, and which is shared by everyone. So that's why this word of new commons was used to focus on this kind of new common goods. Then there are also some other authors that I found very interesting who say, okay, this is very interesting, but common can be also a political principle. Meaning that with the commons, what is important is how do we change our society. Common, it's not only a way of managing resources, but also a way of thinking differently of the society we want to be in. And the impact on public policies should be a political impact also. So going beyond the fact that you are looking how people participate at the local level, but you want to know how this will focus on a different objectives in terms of economic development. So it's a very different way of discussing this idea of commons. Then this has a huge impact, at least in France, on the public aid of donors. French donors today, they are focusing on this idea of commons. Most of the projects that they finance all over the world today in water issues have to be connected with a commoning approach, which is a very big shift. It's a mental shift in our way of thinking about development and also about water issues. But I don't have time to explain where does it come from because it's a very complicated story. But what is interesting in this is that the donors, French donors, they focus on the commons, but in fact, they focus on the first definition of the commons. And they don't want to hear about the second one, which is more a political principle. So they consider the commons as if it was the old story of the commons, which is quite interesting, because they don't want to change the model, but they want to give more power to the people at the local level. You see? So I've been working with an NGO, French NGO, who is trying to deal with this approach concerning the commons, especially in a country which is called Senegal, which is a West African country, French-speaking country. So in Senegal, the country has many differences in terms of water resources. There are big inequalities inside the country between the northern part of the country and the southern part of the country. The north is dry, to be short, and the south has more rain. Climate change in this country has an important impact on water inequalities. So first of all, Senegal has a very abundant freshwater resources, but there is a big variability between the two seasons, meaning that at some period of time, some people don't have water at all in some regions. There is also big droughts, which threaten agricultural livelihoods, fisheries and food securities. And also, as you can see on this map, it's a country which has a lot of coasts on the sea, and there is a huge problem of salinization, a lot of salt in the water that has to be treated. So for all these reasons, you have to find new ways of governing water so that all the people can get access to water. So I did a field study, a big field study with this NGO and students, PhD students, in a specific area of Senegal. I put it here, which is called Niayes. And this is a very interesting case study because this region is rich, because a lot of agricultural products, very rich soil, so you can produce very good fruits, vegetables, and all this. And it's very close to Dakar. Dakar is the capital city of Senegal. So in fact, this is a case study where you can think that, well, this area is rich. Dakar is the city center. It's close to the city center, very easy for transportation and everything. So, well, no key issues in this area. But in fact, there are big challenges in this area. What are the challenges? First of all, the impact of climate change in Senegal and in this particular area. There is also a huge population growth. We didn't discuss this yesterday, but as far as you have some areas which are very attractive because they are rich, there are more and more people coming, a lot of migration, and so it means land pressure and also limited water supply and sanitation. So inequalities are growing in this region from economic, social, spatial dimension. There is also, because of this, an over-exploitation of groundwater. So in fact, there are motor-driven pumps, big boreholes, and this is used for the capital center, not for farming. So there is a huge inequality between urban area, Dakar, and this very rural area. And this is growing more and more with a lot of conflicts, very violent conflicts. So how do we deal, just show how the water, what we call water commons tragedy, lowering of groundwater level according to the situation. So competition between different areas is bad for, equality, bad for growth, and bad also for relationships between people, urban and rural people. So the demand for water from urban citizens is in competition with rural area, and this creates a lot of problems. So what to do to tackle this situation and inequalities? The NGO I was talking about, the French NGO, her name is Gret, is a facilitator trying to elaborate shared governance of water resource based on the recognition of many use rights. Local people, they have their own use rights for water. Government has also its own rights, and sometimes these rights are in contradiction. So how to manage and to collaborate? In fact, the first thing that this NGO did is to support the water department in the Ministry of Water and Sanitation to involve these people in the discussion. So they created kind of platform where these people are invited. And more than this, in their projects, they financed the salary of a member of the minister to be involved in the discussion, which is the first time it has been done. Usually you don't finance people from public administration in a research project. It's research action project. So they try to do that to involve more the administrative and the public authorities in the discussion. Then they did a very bottom-up approach. They tried to ask the people what do they need, what is the most important for them. Is it water? Is it land issues? What is it? So there were these kind of meetings to try to invite all the people in the discussion, trying not to exclude certain people. Then they try also to refer to a specific territory. What is a territory? What is a representation of the people of their territory? Very often it's very different from administrative limits of a territory. So they try to focus more on representation, special representation of the people, to see at what level they think they can be involved to manage their resources. And also to be inclusive, meaning to bring together water users, representative of civil society, decentralized technical services and authorities, but also, and it's the most difficult, private enterprises, private actors, including mining. This is very rich region for mining. But mining, they don't want to be part of this discussion. So this is the key issue. They use a lot of water, they do a lot of pollution, but they don't want to participate to this kind of participatory meeting. So I will finish with this slide because I did too many. What are the key principles and action? First one is knowledge co-production. How do you co-produce knowledge all together on water issues? So they did very interesting things that they call water caravans. These are caravans going in all the villages to try to have the voice of people. What do people want? How do they want to express themselves? They also have tried to, it's not done yet, water houses, where we met, the other day, the woman from the Assembly of the Poor, to have this kind of safe space where people can discuss their issues, their problem, their own problem and issues. They campaign also a lot with what they call forum theaters and debates around movies that they are showing during the night, for instance. They create also multi-stakeholders water platforms that represent the main water users. They also co-elaborate water local governance rules to manage water at this scale. And they try also with agroecology to change the farmers' practices. So you see, there are many, many different ways of dealing with this problem. Just some pictures. The first one on the left is movies and debates in villages. The one on the right is forum theater. And they have also this climate fresque in schools dealing with this kind of issues. And there are also a lot of local collective activities on farming, agroecology, also anti-erosion devices such as stone barriers on the right, and also trying to explain to people the impact of using too much phytosanitary products and how it is to the impact on our environment. And also they train people from measuring water resources so that people can be completely self-sufficient in the way to deal, to understand, and to produce knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Professor Barrow has proposed a common approach, which is for the policy for justice, by using the example of African context, especially in the francophonic country like Senegal. And for example, the emission of the rich, it tends to be that the rich can produce more than the poor. And also the notion of common approach is initiated by a Nobel Prize winner. And the proposal needs the participation, and also it must be for the benefit of the community. For example, the basic access should be provided for everyone, such as access to internet that should be free, and access to water, and also education. And the keys to deal with this inequity is that the knowledge must be produced by all the actors, state actors, private actors, and also the people to work together to develop the knowledge. And that is the general background of how access and justice to get access to the environmental resources is provided. Now let's move to the example of the poverty in the riverine region of Ganga. I would move to Dr. Mothuwani. She will discuss the topic on the debates and measurement of poverty in India, and this will pave the way toward the next presentation. So I will give the microphone to Dr. Mothuwani, please.
Good morning. Actually, it was suggested that we should have more of a discussion. You had some pointers on that, so I would like to leave time for that discussion. Most of my research is on social construction of poverty, which I presented yesterday as the keynote. The only bit I wanted to cover today is about the debates on measurement of poverty. So, as I mentioned yesterday, that in India, to begin with, poverty was measured with the poverty line approach. Actually, there's a long history. The measurement of poverty started much before the independence. There is a study and a book by Dadabhai Naoroji which talks about the un-British rule. The title of the book is The Un-British Rule. He has tried to show that poverty in India started with the British rule. India had self-sufficient kind of agriculture and well-developed trade and business, because this is before the Industrial Revolution. So India used to export spices, and we used to make muslin in Dhaka, which was part of India at that time. And we always had trade surplus with most of the countries, and it had a very large share of the global trade. So that is the glorious past history of India. But after the British rule, a lot of wealth was drained because of the discriminatory policies of the British government. And after the Industrial Revolution, the British government, which was ruling India, saw to it that the machine-made textiles from UK, Manchester and so on, parts of UK, could land in India without any import duty, while India's muslin and other handmade textiles which were going to UK had very high import duties. So whatever industry was there, mostly handloom, was killed systematically by the British policies of that time. And what they were interested in was for Indian agriculturists to grow cotton and export cotton for the textile industry in UK. So Dadabhai Naoroji's work defined for the first time a poverty line, and he said majority of the Indians were living in poverty at that time because of these policies of exploitation. Now post-independence, we had the Planning Commission, which was given the task of centrally planning the economy for faster development. India, if you know, chose the path of mixed capitalist system. So our policy makers, our Prime Minister at that time, Jawaharlal Nehru, thought that if we want to develop very fast and become a developed country, because India was one of the promise on which independence war was fought, was to eradicate poverty. So on the eve of independence, the speech given by our Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, which is often quoted, he said that at the midnight hour when India is awakening into a new independent India, the task before us is to end poverty and to end ignorance and disease. So this has been the promise, which of course has not been fulfilled till very recently. Things have changed very fast in the last few years, and we are very hopeful. Our current Prime Minister has given us this dream of India as a developed country in 2047. So 100 years from our independence, we hope to be a developed country, and we still have another 23 years now, or maybe 24 years to reach that goal. But recently we had a conference in my college where I met Dr. Pianath Soikam and Dr. Tetipal. The theme of the conference was India at 2030. So by 2030, India hopes to be, or it is going to be, that's what the statistics say, the third largest economy in the world. So we are like, the situation has changed a lot since independence, but for a long time, we had majority of our population living in poverty. So, I mean more than 50%. And the first estimates in independent India came from the Planning Commission in 1960, where they put the poverty line at rupees 20 per month per capita. There was a slight variation in rural and urban poverty, but overall it was rupees 20 per month. At that, prices were very low. However, the main breakthrough in poverty studies came in 1971 with a study by Neelkant Dandekar and Rath. Dandekar and Rath study for the first time defined poverty line in terms of a calorie norm. So they said prices of goods will keep changing and the food basket will keep changing. People will consume different things over different periods and different regions. But if we can see what is the level of income at which people end up consuming the minimum calorie need, and the minimum calorie need was put as 2,200 for the rural areas and 1,800 for the urban areas, because there is less physical work in the urban areas. So with this calorie norm, they calculated from, again I mentioned yesterday, the consumption data is collected by National Statistical Survey Organization, NSSO, and these surveys are known as NSS surveys. I wanted to show a little bit of slides so that you can understand what I am saying, but unfortunately it is not saved on this pen drive that I thought it is saved on. It's still in my email and on my computer. So please bear with me. Basically this is the NSS consumption data which is used for calculation of poverty since then. For many years, and every 4 to 5 years it is a large survey of thousands of households in almost all states of India. Some districts are selected and some households are selected. Now I mentioned yesterday that from the same data different people have calculated the level of poverty being different depending on how they are doing. So these I called the methodological issues. So the debates on measurement, one is about methodological issues. The same data is there, but methodologies are different, giving different results. And starting with the Dandekar and Rath doing the study, and then Planning Commission adopted that methodology, and they have been doing it from the 70s to the 80s. Indian poverty was stuck at very high levels of above 50% to between 40 to 50%. It's only in the 90s that it came down to 33%, and then in the new millennium at about 29%. But even, like I said, till about 10 to 15 years ago, it was still as high as 1/3 of the population living in poverty. And that is extreme poverty because the poverty levels are defined as only the calorie norm. However, besides the methodological debates, there are some conceptual debates on poverty line approach. So, first of all, poverty line approach does not tell us about the intensity of poverty. So, if you are below the poverty line, whether you are at halfway or whether you are touching the poverty line or slightly below it, you are still counted as a poor. So, from one period to the other, if some people's incomes have risen and their situation has improved, but they are still below the poverty line, you will find that the data shows no change. Right? Because, so the intensity of poverty, so to say, how below the poverty line you are, is ignored by the PL approach. So that is one conceptual problem. Yeah, I don't have any presentation right now. So that is one conceptual problem. The other conceptual problem is that poverty line approach is not giving any weightage to whether some of the things which make life good are provided by public services free of cost. So in a state where education is free, health facilities are free, people will be better off with the same income than in another state where people have to pay for education and health. So that is not taken care of in the poverty line approach. So, in the 80s, if you know, the development literature started talking about the quality of life index. And then we had this human development indexes, which is taking into account health, education, and the living standards. So GDP per capita is only one part or 1/3 of the human development index. Today we don't measure development of an economy only in terms of GDP per capita. We measure it in terms of three things. 1/3 weight is given to GDP per capita, 1/3 is to education, and 1/3 is to health indicators. So with this, the poverty has also been redefined as human poverty, or human poverty index has came about in the 80s. So besides the minimum calorie norm or the money income, it is health and education. So indicators of poverty is how much literacy you have, what percentage of your population can read and write, what is the number of years of schooling that children are getting, and what is health is measured in terms of your life expectancy. So India, which had a life expectancy of 32 years at the time of independence, has increased it to 64 about 10 years ago, and the current data, we haven't had the census, but is something like 67, 68. So we more than doubled our life expectancy, so that is a sign of the growth also. Because it is believed that only GDP per capita increasing when the inequalities are rising, if it is not being distributed equally, the GDP of the economy, then we can't say that development has taken place. So distribution is equally important, and there the issue of inequality that we are talking about. Coming to the current time, the current way in which poverty is measured all over the world and also now in India is what is known as multiple deprivation index, or multi-dimensional poverty, MDP, if you've heard about. So multi-dimensional poverty is measuring poverty in terms of various deprivations, not just these three. So there are indicators of education, like I said, how many years of schooling the children are getting, to what is the literacy level, etc. And similarly, there are health indicators including infant mortality rates and maternal mortality rates. And there are quality of life indicators, whether you are getting piped water in the taps, or if safe drinking water is available, electricity is available, the toilets are available, because there is a lot of open defecation which used to be there in India. People did not have toilets at home in rural areas, and they will go in the fields. And one of the kind of mission mode program that the current government of Prime Minister Modi had was Clean India. So that was a mission, and today they claim that 100% of India, rural India, is open defecation free, because there are community toilets and there are toilets in homes which were subsidized by the government. So coming to this multi-dimensional poverty, the latest data was released last year by the Planning Commission, which is now known as the Niti Aayog, along with UNDP, United Nations Development Programme, and it shows that there is a drop of 15% in poverty in India over the last 10 years. So major drop in poverty if we measure it by multidimensional poverty, and these deprivations are measured not by NSS data, it is measured by National Family Health Survey data, NFHS. So 2 different rounds of NFHS show that poverty has declined by 15%, and it made major headlines in most newspapers that poverty in India has declined. And but the criticism remained that the NSS data of the 2017-18 round has not been made public. So the last data we had from NSS was 2011-12, and many scholars said that 17-18 data probably was showing higher poverty levels, and that is why that data has not been released, so that we cannot calculate. But the truth seems to be that the data was having some anomalies. There was some problem with the data, and that is why it was not released. Just 2 days before I came here, the 2022 NSS survey data has been made public, and the official calculation of poverty based on the latest survey of 2022 shows that poverty in India has declined to 5%. Of course, we have to take it with a pinch of salt, because the individual researchers now will use that data, it has just been released, and they may come up with a higher figure. But what seems to be true is that poverty has declined in the last 10 to 15 years to a large extent. Yesterday I listened to a paper on food security, comparing India with Thailand, and I just want to say that India has had the world's largest food security program. It's the largest food security program in the world, and it has been in place from the 1960s, known as public distribution system. So all over India, in the remote areas, in the villages, there are these shops known as public distribution shops or ration shops. The word is ration. So in these shops, major items of food, especially the cereals, wheat or rice, but also sugar and kerosene as the fuel, has been made available to the population at subsidized rate. So the government buys from the farmers at a higher rate, and it makes it available to the general public at lower rate. Now when we started with economic reforms in 1991, the IMF and World Bank said you are wasting a lot of money on subsidies, and that is why the government budget is so much in deficit, so you cut down. And then this PDS was changed to targeted PDS, TPDS, so that now the grains are made available only to the poor people at subsidized rate, and at a higher price if you want to buy and you are not a poor. So a BPL population, below poverty line people, are getting grains at a subsidized rate since 91. But then at the time of the COVID, a large number of people lost their jobs. They were not living in their villages, they had migrated to cities, and there they lost their job, they did not have food. So the government made it almost free of cost. Wherever you are in the country, even if your ration card is from a village and you are living in the city now, you could avail of minimum food at very low price or no price, free. And they have extended it beyond COVID, and today the government claims that 2/3 of India's population has access to free food. So if food poverty we talk about, in that sense we have managed to overcome the food poverty. So that is where we stand, and I think I will end here so that we can then discuss further.
Very much. Dr. Ratchathani, thank you very much. So poverty is very methodological and also conceptual. And Dr. Ratchathani has raised the example of India from the times of colonial times, that you measure poverty in the way that British did, and then also the post-independence day, the way of measuring poverty changed also. And nowadays it is the moment when the government of India try to eradicate poverty by lifting the standard of lives, the level of education, and also everyday facilities such as by providing basic infrastructure like electricity, and also food security is also the important key to get rid of education in India. And now let's move to our home, the Mekong. อาจารย์กนกวันมโนรม would deliver the talk on the inequality and injustice case on poverty, whose voices are counted, and the case study of the Mekong regions. So please, I welcome you on the stage.
Thank you, Ajahn Thanachet. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, I just would like to check whether or not you are sleeping or listening. Welcome to second day. So we have some young people, I guess from the Faculty of Political Science, right? On my left-hand side, welcome. Oh, from your class, border study, and also we got PhD master students, and we got, of course, our distinguished guests from India, from Moldova, and from Turkey, and Ajahn from Chulalongkorn. So welcome to the second day of the seminar. I would like to warm up a little bit. Sorry, Ajahn. I'm taking your role. Okay. Welcome to the Mekong. Yesterday I was talking about Thailand case study from gender perspectives. But now I would like to focus more on inequality. That's my headline. Inequality causes poverty, and whose voices are counted. We need to say that. Yesterday also professor also talking about that, and some people in this room also talking about the voices, whose voice should be heard at the policy level with regarding to poverty reduction and poverty policy. Next, okay, the Mekong. I would like to briefly talk about the Mekong. Of course, we are now sitting in the Mekong region. So the lower Mekong and the upper part of the Mekongs. We are now in the lower part of Mekong. The Mekong runs from Yunnan to Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, and Cambodia. So just to get the student know, and also the length of the Mekongs is quite long, almost 5,000 kilometers. And of course, a lot of rich diversities. You can see this is from the statistics provided by Mekong River Commission. It's more than 20,000 plant species. You see? มีพืชเยอะมากกว่า 20,000 ชนิด I would like to translate to the Thai colleagues, students here. More than 850 fish species. Ajahn Chaiwut, he is a fish expert over there. He knows so well. And in the lower part of the Mekong, so more than almost 70 million people inhabiting in this region. And of course, 30 years ago, UN came to the Mekong and said, okay, Mekong was so abundant, so rich. Why don't we use the Mekong as much as we can to try to improve the life of the people here by providing hydropower, irrigation, navigation, and flooding control. This is a thing that been identified more than 60 years ago. This is a livelihood of the Mekong people, they're living, So, when you go to Cambodia or the Mekong Delta, you will see floating villages or floating communities. They're living in the river. And also we have tourism, so some of you might be interested in studying tourism. And also over the past 20 years, a lot of urbanization, the growth of the towns along the Mekong bank, and also a lot of migration from the rural to the big city in the Mekong city. And when you look at the community living along the Mekong River, you could see that their life was very diversified. They're not only fishing, but also they do farming, they do like weaving, they grow a lot of cotton, they also collecting forest products, and also they raise cattle as well. So when you look at the poverty, you have seen the dynamics of poverty in the region. So the population in 4 countries like in Laos, Vietnam, Laos and Cambodia. So Vietnam has the largest population number in the region compared to Laos, PDR is very least. Only almost, I think, 7.4 million people living in Laos. In Thailand, of course, we are in Thai, right? And about 70 million people. And the Human Development Index mentioned by professor from India, Dr. Motani. Yeah, Motani, sorry. The Human Development Index in the Mekong, you have seen that, including when you talk about the Human Development Index, they refer to long and healthy life, and knowledge, and decent standard of living, including income. You know, Thailand is at the top, and the lowest might be Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos, and Vietnam in the middle, in between Thailand and Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos. So, this is a very important book that called the Master Plan of the Mekong Development. It was established by United Nations in 1967. In this book, the book pointed that the Mekong was very rich resources. It could be used as much as we could to provide navigation, to provide flood control, to provide energy and irrigation. This is the master plan of the Mekong. That's why right now there are a lot of hydropowers and irrigation projects. And in Isan region, we have the mega project, water diversion projects. Now, in the past, we call Khong Chi Moon river water diversion, but now they include Khong, Loi, Chi, Moon water diversion. In order to bring the Mekong river to store in the Moon and the Chi river, and to provide a lot of water for the people in the northeast region, which the government consider that the people in our regions are the poorest, and the region is the driest region in Thailand. So this is the reason why a lot of big projects are happening or taking place in the region. And you see along the Mekong, this is the most recent photo provided by Stimson Center, who has studied hydropower, and this is supported by American government, of course. This is geopolitics between China and America. You can see a lot of dams in China already made, and also a lot more dam put in place in the lower part of the Mekong, and now being constructed. Luang Prabang Dam already finished, Sayabuli and also Don Sahong Dam. But the MRC admits lately in 2021 that, I would like to read loudly, the construction of tributary and mainstream dams is changing the flow regime of the basin. And this presents both challenges and opportunities. Further, construction of in-stream barriers will exacerbate these impacts and contribute to other, meaning that hydropower do not generate only benefit like economic growth of each nation, but also bring about problems, challenges for the local people. This is the statement made by international organization called Mekong River Commission. Very late response on this. So they admit the problems of hydropower that put in place in the region as well. So this is the prospect, the MRC made the statement. They see the concern of MRC is about the impacts of large-scale hydropower going to be taking place in the Mekong, including water quality, including climate change, including to the livelihoods of the people, environmental concern. And my argument, this is my argument, just I like to make argument มักจะเถียงนะนักศึกษา My argument, I think the water policy, hydropower policy, they believe that hydropower would reduce poverty เขื่อนลดความยากจน that statement they always believe that that's the government and the private sector they join hand and they believe that hydropower would eradicate poverty particularly in Laos which is the least developed country in the Mekong so hydropower connotes scientific knowledge connotes economic growth connotes technocrats perspective rather than other kind of knowledge or people knowledge or citizen knowledge. As a result, this policy create or exacerbate or the already existing poverty which have been found in the region. This is my argument. And also, this policy based on scientific knowledge would address a lot of or bring about later on the unintended consequences. So, my second part, voice and whose voice and why they matter in poverty reduction with regarding to hydropower. So, we love the Mekong. You know Kuti, he's a scholar from my perspective, the most well-known scholar. He's not academic, but he's just common people who has stood out and talk out loud to protect the Mekong. Kuti Ajahn Niwat Roy Keo, he's based in Chiang Rai. He travel around the world and tell the people that what's happening in the Mekong. The policy on the hydropower disregard the local livelihood, local knowledge, local people who depend on the Mekong. So they come up with the campaign, we love the Mekong. And he has done so many campaigns. He has initiated a lot of activity in order to overcome this problem. And when local people talk about the environment, oh, dams, no for us. But fish is yes for us. แม่น้ำคือปลาเขื่อนคือสิ่งที่ไม่ใช่ Literally, I แปลให้นะคะอาจารย์แปลให้นะคะ You see this one's very interesting. I really like this is the weaving made by Thai หรือ women. This represents women resistance against them. The resistance do not have to go and grab the road or seize the road, but you can resist in many different forms. You can weave. You can tell the people what you thinking about the Mekong, the perceptions about the Mekong. So, because the hydropower or navigation projects have generated devastated life of the people who depend on the Mekong. So women who depend mainly on the Mekong resources, they do not know what to do. They do not want to go to protest in Bangkok, or they don't want to go to the place on the road or take the roadside or the dam side. They just weave and they express their feeling, their concern about the Mekong through their weaving to end their environment. You see, they perform many things. They went to, this is another kind of resistance. And also, this is they come up with a campaign, justice for the Mekong. Actually, I should have put on this t-shirt. I got this one. So justice causes poverty. This is my main argument. And you see, I would like to, I don't know, can I, no sounds there. I don't know what to do. I tape this. I went to work with local people along the Mekong. I found that there are other actors. River as actor แม่น้ำก็คือมนุษย์ แม่น้ำเป็นมนุษย์ได้เป็นแอคเตอร์ได้โขดหินปลา wood fish tree everything is actor because they got agency you can see that sorry you couldn't hear sound but I don't know what happened it's okay okay lately Catherine and I went to the village together we took this photo the shrine the spirit house is located next to the Mekong River in Khong Chiem province not far from where Phungoi Dam the large scale hydropower dam going to be located to be built in Laos and not far from us only less than 50 kilometers far from us and the backwater from the dam will come to Ubon and add more problem in Ubon because Ubon province already had the flooding problem and this dam will add more water in the area that's why the trial is so important she said this one is our spirit the government the actor the powerful actor never realized this when we have the problem we ask the spirit to protect us to help us you can't quantify this เรานับเป็นตัวเลขไม่ได้นะคะนักศึกษา but it's about the moral it's about so the hydropower generate physical damage and also damage mental or spirit of the people as well so the dam's not threat in environment but also disrupt spiritual and mental well-being of the communities so the belief is a collective form I would like to put the word collective cry for the preservation of this viable lifelong who depend on the river who respect the river and it is a kind of profound cultural and spiritual significance so this aspect is very important we need to bring this out loud we need to talk about this because it's the heart of the people but the government private sector never realized this so my conclusion Ajahn J sorry I know your gesture you try to tell me to stop but let me have 1 minute okay so over the past 30 years local livelihoods depending on or informal economy generated by local people have not been put in place have not been put as a core or the focus of hydropower policy or energy power policy in the Mekong. I think poverty should be regarded as a consequences of injustice or inequality generated by water policy. In the past, villagers they live their life quite okay. They access to water, they access to river resources and gain some income and more income from river resources. But now after dam was introduced to their life, you see it's really their lives facing as you said, suffering and difficulties. So now their lives facing some uncertainties which very difficult to bring back their rich resources because of the dam. And emotion and cultural significance embroidered through their daily life have been disregarded. Non-human actors like spirit, the sound of the river, the rocks, the stone, the boat that belong to local people, not recognized by the private sector or the government. So we need to incorporate non-human actor, cultural significance in the policy of hydropower or development policy. We need to co-create knowledge together, as Catherine said and also other people said. We need to allow voices of local people, knowledge of local people, cultural significance of local people to put in place. in the policy on hydropower. Thank you, Ajahn Jay.
Thank you, Ajahn Kanokwan. Very heart-touching presentation indeed. After hearing your presentation, I can think of two issues. First of all, I always talk to my students all the time and ask them in the class, what is justice in your opinion? And the answer is that the justice is that people get what they deserve to get. And that's the definition of justice. For this case, the people who live along the Mekong River, they deserve to have their life, their river, their fish, and that's what they deserve. And secondly, it's about the political issues. When we talk about politics, we tend to ask who count as an actor, as a political actor. Going back to political philosophy, we talk about like Soyi, Bios, and Forni, and logos, something like that. For this case, Ajahn Kanokwan has touched upon and she's gone beyond the modernity of anthropocentrism. It's post-Anthropocene issues. It means that we go beyond the actor that are human beings, and the Mekong is counted as an actor as well. And this should be included as actor in policy formulation. And that's how we include people. People, what I mean people, I put an S after people. Peoples, not people. And so I would like all the presenters to give one final remark for this session. So let's start with Ajahn Kanokwan first and then we go backward. Please.
Okay, thank you so much. I like your moderating. Okay, a few words.
You can have more, 1 minute or 2 minutes.
Oh, no, okay,
Yes,
okay, thank you so much. Of course, I like to express my concern. I'm a sociologist. Been trained by training. อาจารย์เป็นนักสังคมวิทยา and plus anthropologist. I think we need to bring together engineering expert, political science expert, fishery expert, agricultural expert, and so many other different disciplinary to work together, males and female, and then you understand the thing wholly. You understand the river from many different perspectives, and then we can go from here, and we can see the sustainability and how the resource would be preserved or managed in a more better sustainable way. That's my point, Ajahn Jay.
Thank you very much, Professor Pontwani. Please, 1 or 2 minute final remark.
Thank you. My talk was little disconnected with the issue of water being talked about. I will like to add a little bit about our own water wars in India. And especially because a lot of students are here today, I'm addressing you particularly. One case study, you can search on the web and you will find it, is about how the villagers in a small village in southern India, the place is called Plachimada, Plachimada. They gave a fight to a big multinational like Coca-Cola, and this war for justice over underground water, went on for years and up to the Supreme Court of India through various courts, and finally not only people won over the MNC. If you see Coca-Cola's web page today, all they talk about is that we are water positive, we are doing more for regenerating water than the water that we are using. All this is because of that negative campaign, and the students played a role, because when the story of how Plachimada's villagers are suffering because of the Coca-Cola factory, which was extracting millions of gallons of water from the underground, and there was no water left for their agriculture. Students in campuses in America and other countries, they boycotted Coca-Cola when they read this story on the World Wide Web. So the world today is interconnected. If injustice takes place at one place, if you are aware, if you are reading and you put up your voice, the corporates then cannot exploit, and so the governments. So be aware, be awake, and stand for justice.
Professor Bahong.
For me, it will be very short. I think we need another narrative. I think that we need to focus on what is the main narrative to express how things are presented, as you made, Kanokwan. And then we have to write all together, a new narrative, explaining that the main dominant narrative is not the right one. So I think that this is our job as academics, and to do that with people who are engaged in this fight, because it is a fight in terms of power relationships, and that the only way we can have things changed.
Thank you.
I can share my PowerPoint if you like. Raise your hand. My PowerPoint. Okay.
Thank you very much. And yes. Do you have a good time today? I'm sure you do, right? Yes, and I'm sure you and I also have learned so many things today, quite new perspective on poverty, and also from the Ganga River to the Mekong River and other cases studies around the world, especially in Africa as well. And so I would like to thank all the guest speakers today, and also
Perhaps someone have questions?
yes, yeah. Do you have any question to our speakers? Yes, Ajahn Buntiwa, please.
Test. I think it's working. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I would like to ask about the case in Senegal. What is the result of your study that you say that so they try to make local people to take part and make decisions about the project. So what is the result of that? Because in Thailand, you know that we try to do that, you know, but we have a problem of decentralizations. Because I have not much information about Senegal government. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for your question. Yeah, I think that's what I was saying that yesterday. I think that institutional contexts are very important. Things that you can do in Senegal, you cannot export it elsewhere. You see? So we are discussing a lot with my colleagues on what we call traveling models. You know, we think that because there is a success story somewhere, it can be duplicated elsewhere, which is not the case. So to answer more specifically to your question, in Senegal, what is interesting is that because of this project, they are changing a little bit the water law, which means that the impact is at the institutional level, not only at a very local level. At the very local level, they try to organize the people, but as they involved the administration, local public authority, they try to have an impact at the national level. And the water law is being rewritten in Senegal, so they try to push on this way. That's why I call it shared governance, not only community-based, but how also it impacts from the bottom to the up level. Right? So it's a process. So it's a very difficult process, but it's changing a lot. But you see, today, I don't know, maybe you don't know, there is a big crisis in Senegal because the president doesn't want to leave. So everything is stopped now. So you see, you have to integrate this also in the discussion, political issues, very important.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. You want to use your microphone or use this microphone, Ajahn Philip Patra? Oh, okay. Yes, please introduce yourself and ask question. Thank you.
Yeah. My question is for อาจารย์กนกวรรณนะคะ I have just met like management level people in a very big company. They are very now focusing on zero emission. You know, they said like every new project that they have in hands, the first thing is to calculate the carbon emission. But when I ask about biodiversity loss, it's really like not in their equation. And one of the things that they mentioned is like, oh, you know, we are going to use the clean power. We going to change from maybe fossil fuel to the power from hydropower plants. But no one talk about this biodiversity loss topic. Maybe this could be the approach or not. And the way that no one talk about this biodiversity loss, maybe it's like greenwashing in a way. I'm not sure how is your opinion, and could this be the thing that we can tackle the problem?
Oh, okay ค่ะ very good question. I think when we talk about dam business or hydropower policy or energy policy, we cannot just point out biodiversity or biodiversities or physical aspects of river, but we need to integrate, you know, biophysical and livelihood together, because local people depend on on the biodiversity, and biodiversity also sustain life for the people and provide ecological services to the river systems. So we need to look at from the holistic approach rather than single or singular approach to understand the very complex issue like hydropower policy. And greenwash, of course, some people criticize climate change solutions or climate solutions as a greenwash. Actually, a lot more complicated issues. Yeah, that's my response to you.
Any other questions? You can ask in Thai ถามภาษาไทยได้นะครับฝั่งนี้ โอเคอาจารย์อับดุลรอมัน
Okay, my turn. I would like to ask Professor Amita. I am so impressed by your presentation on the debates of official measurement of poverty. In my view, another measurement that is quite controversial is the measurement of being developed country and underdeveloped country. I would like to hear from your perspective about this measurement, please. Thank you.
Actually, the idea of poverty is quite interlinked with how we see or define development. So in the past, development was synonymous with economic growth, rise in GDP per capita, and poverty was also in terms of per person, what is the minimum required poverty line. As the development idea broadened, and we included the quality of life, education, and health into the idea of development, and we talked about human development index, came the human poverty index, because again poverty was now defined as lack of education, health, and income. And today we talk about development as sustainable development or inclusive development. So the poverty idea has also become multi-dimensional. So the two are very linked.
Okay, the last one.
Yes. I need to answer the question. Associate Professor Amita Motwani, about you talking about the Indian plan for developed countries to 2047, and I discussed with Erhan about developed country for India. I need to know about what is the approach of India to become and to reach the destination of 2047 for developed country, please.
there are many, programs, projects. I think what is unique is giving this dream to the people. So as a leader, the Prime Minister has given this dream to the people. And all that is happening now is with a focus on that dream. So even the conferences that we are having in the universities, we are talking about how to achieve, and people are coming up with ideas. Mainly it is driven by the private sector, because the industrial development and our trade, especially we trade more in services, our maximum foreign exchange earning is from export of IT services. So basically services, because India is unique. Most countries, when they develop, they go from being agriculture dominance to industry dominance to services. But India jumped from being agriculturally dominated to now services are contributing more than 60% of our GDP. So even internally, not only in trade, internally also most of our GDP is coming from services, formal and informal, which includes of course education, health and various tourism and different IT services, banking services. But industry has somewhere lagged behind. So one focus is also now on the manufacturing sector, because that can generate more of employment. Because even though incomes are increasing, inequality is also increasing. And there is a lot of unemployment even now. So again, another focus is on startups, that we are encouraging our students not only to seek jobs, but create jobs. So almost all educational institutions, engineering college particularly, but even my college, we are asking students to be entrepreneurs. So some of the students, when they are still in their college, they are having their own businesses, and we have college societies where we are encouraging them to start their own enterprise and help them get the funding. So government is giving a lot of funding to small enterprises, new ideas. We have these incubation centers to handhold. Banks are giving loans to startups without any collateral. And all this we are hoping, because we already have a lot of startups. I don't have the numbers, but it's increased many hundredfolds in the last 10 years. And many of them are unicorns. That is, they have got value of more than $1 billion. So.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So today's plenary session is concluded. I will give the microphone to Ajahn Songpon. So the floor is yours, Ajahn.
Thank you very much. So may I have a big round of applause one more time for all the speakers and the moderator, please. Wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone.
And thoughts or thought chains on my mind. First of all, this is my personal conclusion, by the way. I'm a political scientist, and when I heard the presentations, I always, it's a professional weakness perhaps, I always thought how it influences politics. And I come up with some examples from Turkey, from India, how poverty and different versions of deprivations trigger or feed populist politics all around the world was my first conclusion. And I would like to hear more and more on the political aspect of the problem. Here we heard a lot of papers talking about the sociological dimension of the problem, structural reasons of the problem, and approaches to overcome poverty by using structural perspective, and also economical dimension was brought forward. But political dimension, as I said, as a political scientist, is one of the most interesting parts, and I would like to thank to organizers one more time inviting me to this meeting so that I could think about the political implications of poverty. Today one of our presenters is missing, so I'm using my time a bit wider than I was expected to. I will tell you two personal stories, anecdotes, that I felt myself connected with the story that we are covering today. During the early days of coronavirus pandemic, we initiated a research on the impact of corona over the societies in Turkey. And I remember I made an interview with one of the aid organizations in Istanbul, and she was pretty much involved in the term, she was using the term deep poverty. I don't know if it is a true translation or not, but there I learned something about the topic that we are covering. I don't know if it is relevant. I'm sure it was discussed in the literature, but I'm not familiar with the literature on poverty a lot, so you would perhaps give feedback to me. I guess, I mean, this is quite a personal read, so take it like that. I think poverty and being poor should be totally differentiated. When we talk about poverty, I assume we are talking about an emergency situation in which people couldn't have access to food, shelter, and water. Very basic human needs for survival. Let me go back to the interview. The woman with whom I was interviewing told me that during the time of Corona, people who were dependent on daily income couldn't go and work on daily works. This was a story from urban setting. So they couldn't have access to the basics, which are in modern day world considered as kind of poisons for us. I will tell you what they are. Flour, sugar, salt, and oil for cooking. If people, and these are, you know, shown to the people of modern world today as the worst things for human health. You know, we should keep ourselves away from flour, salt, and sugar. But these are the basics for people in poverty, and if these three could enter into a house, then they could feed themselves and their kids. So that was quite a striking moment for me, because, you know, up until that moment, I was always told that, you know, we have to stay away from those three white poisons of modern life. It's a totally different phenomena. Being poor, I guess, is something different. It could be expressed. That's the reason why we have the term deprivation and multiple deprivation that professors before us talked about, because it's a bigger thing. It's quite structural as well, and it requires a different perspective to fight with. Anyway, today we have 4 speakers, and they will talk about the Mekong Ganga cooperation and what has been achieved or not achieved during the last 25 years. Our first discussant or presenter is Dr. Titipol Paktevanic, if I am right on pronunciation, from Ubon Ratchathani University. The floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My presentation will be focusing on foreign aid in the Mekong sub-region, and the title is Rethinking India's Strategic Engagement in the Lower Mekong Basin through the Mekong Ganga Cooperation. And so we have heard a lot of uncertainties within the regions, like in the Mekong itself, with a number of actors engaged, and especially China and the dams in the upper Mekong. The other challenge that I think is important to look at in relation to uncertainty in the region is the conflicting interest between actors that are engaging in the region, which I will be discussing. But when we look at India and how can the country engage with the Southeast Asian, and the historical engagement, if we look at this, and it's through Buddhism and Hinduism that we have seen a lot across the region. And this week, I think you are familiar with this picture that I show in my PowerPoint here, with the sacred relics of Lord Buddha that is actually in Bangkok, and it is going to be here perhaps next week. So this also shows a kind of diplomacy that India is trying to use with Thailand. And with regard to India engagement, we have seen numbers of engagement contributions of India towards many countries. Like this picture is from Laos. So if you look at this picture, it's from Wat Phu, that is the World Heritage. And the reconstruction and re-establishment of the temple itself towards the Laos government received quite a large amount of money from the government of India from Mekong Ganga Corporation. And so we can see that the connection through Buddhism and Hinduism is also important. So when we look at the history of this since the 15th centuries, so when we observe the religious engagement, then it's come after that, like trade relations and the expansion of other forms of relations between the two countries, India and Southeast Asia. But when we the current situation today, this one is quite related to the Mekong Ganga Corporation, because India is now one of the donors within the region. But when we look at the amount of the money that has been spent, and this figure is between 2016 and 2017, we can see individual donors here, and the gray here you can see in Cambodia, in Thailand, Laos, Myanmar and Vietnam. And the top donor is Japan, and ADB is the second one. And within the ADB itself, Japan and the US is the large shareholder within the bank. But actually, according to the report, although China is not listed here, but China is actually one of the top spenders in the region, considering its BRI, Belt and Road Initiative policy that was announced by the Chinese government since 2013. So within the region, we can see a number of actors. So it is very pluralistic. So we have Japan, US, France, Korea, Australia, and another list actors. So this is also a challenge for India to engage with other actors within the region. So this is the framework that I would perhaps want to highlight here. We have the US Mekong partnership that actually started under the administration of President Obama in 2009, and it was called Lower Mekong Initiative. And within all of this framework, and we have Lanchang Mekong Corporation and China, and Mekong Ganga Corporation with India, and GMS with the ADB, the support from ADB. So when we look at the primary actors here, we have Cambodia, we have Laos, we have Myanmar, we have Thailand, and we have Vietnam. So the regional actors that are involved are the Southeast Asian countries that are part of the Mekong River, and we have the US, China. They have their own framework. And what does it mean here with the engagement? So perhaps I would want to play this first before I continue with my presentation.
India also seeks to promote cooperation with diverse partners. From the era of non-alignment, we have now evolved to that of Vishwa Mitra, a friend to the world. This is reflected in our ability and willingness to engage with a broad range of nations and, where necessary, harmonize interests. It is visible.
So what does it mean with a friend to the world that was announced by External Minister of India at the UN, and harmonized interests between India and other actors within the region? So perhaps when we look at this engagement here, perhaps it is also important to look at what is actually happening in the region. And the first one with China. China did, with their foreign policy, they have peaceful rise, peaceful development, and win-win cooperation. That is the main part of Chinese foreign policy. And with Japan, they have Japan-Mekong cooperation as well. And Japan, they make it clear that they try to promote establishment of the new partnership for the common flourishing future. And India, this is what the Prime Minister Modi mentioned, that the world is one family. And with Korea's strategy for free, peaceful, and prosperous Indo-Pacific region, and with the U.S.-Mekong partnership, they also try to promote stability, peace, and prosperities. So when we look at all of this, they are not much different in the sense of their engagement, but how can they actually harmonize their interests? That remains a question. And how can India engage with all of these actors? One of the problems that we have seen is, of course, China. That is perhaps it's not easy for Japan to engage with. And China is trying to actually take control of the Mekong as well with its through the Belt and Road Initiative, and we can see that the spending of Chinese government actually raised awareness amongst many other actors, especially the US and India as well. So the other important thing that we would also have to look at is the non-interference policy of China, and within the U.S. foreign policy, that they will also come with the promotion of democracy and human rights. And what does it mean with the spending of foreign aid of these two actors? Because when the money from China is more perhaps attractive to many other countries because it comes with no condition. That's what is specified by the Chinese government. But with the US engagement, they also try to mention that we are engaging with this country because we want to promote democracy and human rights. That make it more difficult for many countries in the lower Mekong basins. And this is just a picture of one of the very first symbolic re-engagement of the U.S. when President Obama attended ASEAN-US meeting in, I think, 2009. And this is when the then Foreign Secretary, this State Secretary of the U.S. visited Phuket, and when she actually announced the Lower Mekong Initiative of the U.S. foreign policy, and we see China is expanding its engagement. And this is a picture from Laos that you can see the presence of Chinese businesses. That is also important. But when we look at the current situation today, and we can see that the world has changed, and India has become the world's most populous country last year, and India is the 5th largest economy in the world. And how can India be part of South Asia and the lower Mekong basins? Like Prime Minister Modi also mentioned that together for everyone's growth, with everyone's trust and everyone's efforts. So what does it mean, everyone trust? How can India create trust within the region? Because if you look at other actors that I mentioned earlier, like Chinese, and there are also questions over Chinese engagement, like in Vietnam, in Laos, and in Cambodia. People also question whether it is intended just to promote the Chinese interests without considering other actors. So how can India create trust? within the region. But one of the main things that perhaps I would also want to mention that because if you look at the reputation of this country, perhaps the reputation of India is better than the reputation of China and the US within the regions. Because when we look at the US engagement here, with my experience when we did the project with USAID back over 10 years ago, when we implemented the project here, and one of the very main questions that I was asked by local NGOs that, they asked me whether I wanted to turn Thailand into the Middle East. And I said, why? And they said, because the money is from the US, then you have to question that. So when we look at these kind of questions of the reputation that perhaps India is perhaps in a better position, and with the the engagement through religious belief, with Buddhism, with Buddhist diplomacy, that is also another way to re-establish and build trust between India and regional actors.
Our vision is सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास, सबका प्रयास. It means together for everyone's growth, with everyone's trust and everyone's efforts. Let me share with you.
So this is a big question for India to build trust between India and other actors within the region, perhaps I would say. And when we look at the current state of the situation in the region here and the global freedom status, and most country within the Mekong area is highlighted. It's actually highlighted in purple, which is classified as a not free country. And so not free country, that means the problem with democratic system within the region. But of course Laos, Vietnam is not a democratic country. That is another question. But then with India engagement, one thing is important to look at here as well. This is from the speech of Prime Minister Modi in the US Congress. What is India is trying to do within the region, and how can India be part of the West and act in the East and with the other actors in the region. So
democracy is one of our sacred and shared values. It has evolved over a long time and taken various forms of systems. Throughout history,
so if we look at one of the speech that was delivered by Prime Minister Modi, and if we go back to what I mentioned about the China in non-interference policy, that also means China is not talking about democracy and human rights at all. That is not the concerns of the Chinese government, but with the foreign policy of the US, that democracy and human rights was actually the main theme. And with regard to the speech delivered by Prime Minister Modi, that when he mentioned that democracy is one of our sacred and shared values. So if the US and India have these shared values, how can these shared values be delivered and implemented within the region? Would this be a mechanism to rebuild trust between India and regional actors? This is also another important element that we would also have to look at in terms of India's strategies within the region. And the last thing that perhaps is interesting to look at is also the speech by Dr. Shashankas when he also delivered at the UN.
Recognizing that growth and development must focus on the most vulnerable, we began the G20 presidency by convening the Voice of the Global South Summit. This enabled us to hear directly from 125 nations and place their concerns on the G20 agenda. As a consequence, issues which deserve global attention got a fair hearing. More than that, the deliberations produce outcomes that have great significance for the international community. Mr. President, it was also noteworthy that at India's initiative, the African Union was admitted as a permanent member of the G20. By doing so, we gave voice to an entire continent which has long been its due. This significant step in reform should inspire the United Nations, a much older organization, to also make the Security Council contemporary. Broad representation is, after all, a prerequisite for both effectiveness and credibility.
And when we look at this situation, if we consider last year when India was hosting the G20 summit, and India is actually trying to create a reputation to take a position to be a leader for the southern countries and developing countries. So, and when India was perhaps could also claim a credit for pushing the African country to be part of the G20, that was important. So with this experience, can India also use its positions as a kind of representative of southern countries to engage and regain trust with country within Southeast Asia? That is also another question. But currently India has been accepted by many countries that to be a voice for the South. So that is also quite important when you look at the engagement through the Mekong Ganga cooperation. But currently at the moment, perhaps it's also from my naive perspective as well, because and if you look at the presence of Mekong Ganga cooperation, is not quite visible when we compare to other actors like Japan and others like the US Mekong Partnership, and they have more visibilities within the region. This is also another challenge for India to perhaps engage with the country in Southeast Asia. So this is all of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Titipol Pakti-Vanich. Your presentation was about the regional dimension of the problem and how regional and international actors were involving into the region through which perspectives and what kind of dynamics were influential over this cooperation attempts. Thank you very much for that. It was one of the dimensions needed to approach the problem properly, I guess. Our second presenter is Dr. Chayvut Grutpan from Ubon Ratchathani University. Again, floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, namaskar for everyone. I'm just get the good opportunity to join the international conference in Shillong, Meghalaya last month. Thank you for Ajahn Num and my rector in the Faculty of Agriculture to communicate with the India Embassy in Bangkok to organize this. I need to talking about the northeastern part of India. Before I go there, many of my colleagues and friends, they're talking about something like the ordinary background about India. But when I've been there, totally very different. When I've been there, I think the first of my eye in the Kolkata International Airport. That is very convert information that I got from the friend. This is India. The first welcome for the Indian government staff in the airport. They call me, "Are you India?" I'm really happy for that. And I take 5 hours at the airport because I need to get the domestic flight to Shillong. I just sitting in the canteen of the airport. Many of local people come to me, ask me something because they thinking I'm the local. This is the northeast of India. Some informative data they call 7 sister province of northeast state of northeast. But I got the information, another information, 8 state include Sikkim. And if you observe the indigenous people, it's so very similar or relative with the people in the Southeast Asia, especially in the Indo-Chinese region. We also have the Mon Khmer, we also have Sino-Tibetan people here, and in northeast of India you can find very diversified ethnic group, and so significantly to have some connection with our Mekong region. And if we focusing to the Meghalaya state, Meghalaya, Meghalaya, that means the state above the cloud. We have Himalaya, right? We have Meghalaya. In the northeastern of India, they also have Arunachal Pradesh. That means the state เห็นตะวันก่อนใครในอินเดีย If we focusing in Meghalaya, we have 3 main tribes, Garo, Kasi, and Gentia. This is two main group. Garo is Sino-Tibetan, relation with the Naga people, and Kasi and Gentia is relation with Mon Khmer. You can observe the fate of the real northeast India. That is the single of Kasi people in Meghalaya. I think it looked like the people in the southern part of northeast Thailand, especially in Ubon, Ratchathani. And I took photograph with the staff at the hotel, 2 groups. The girl is Kasi and the boy is Garo. It's very similar with the people in the Mekong region. And belonging to the International Water Congress, that is very big event from India for the central state and also for the Meghalaya state. They invite many of rector participate from any state of India because they're focusing in the hill area. It's had a lot of opportunity to do the water regulation, including the hydropower dam. Like Pituk Ajahn Ganokwan said about the impact of the developing. I think we have 2 main keywords, development and sustainability. If we doing something like we have more open floor to discussion, multidiscipline. For me, I'm not the social science, I'm the biologist. And I think in terms of the biologist, we also have something like the international meeting, something like the symposium. But we don't have opportunity to discuss with the people who look similar like the social side, political side. That is, we also talking about the impact. Like last 5 years, I joined the international conference in Nanning, Guangxi province The main topic also we lose the opportunity about the maintain the high biodiversity. They also talking about the impact of the development, included the hydropower dam by Chinese scientists in China. But that is the flaw for the scientists. And the goal of this international water conclave that looks similar like Ajahn said about the commitment point of India country to do the collaboration. And I attend the session of water and livelihood. You see, I am the biologist, but they are grouping to work with the water and livelihood session. Included many of the Indian researchers, and they also have their project. Their work looks similar like I done with colleagues in the Mekong region. And this is my presentation. I think because of the Mekong is so very significant when we thinking about the natural resources. Fish. This is the prehistoric painting in the national park in Ubon, Ratchathani. We have chance to visit tomorrow. I am not sure for that. That is good location to see the panorama view of the Mekong mainstream. With the look similar like the sandstone mountain. And you can see the figure of Mekong giant catfish. It reminds us to thinking about in the 2000 years ago how the human community in that time can drawing, painting the whole body of the fish. At that time, we are for sure don't have the aquarium, don't have the glass tank. That means they have some gear, some technique to catch the fish. And they show the fish look similar like when we thinking about the mammoth or the Cape lion in Europe. And Ajahn Tuk already present about the Mekong. I just fastly to talking in the upper part because Mekong we call Lan Chang Mekong. The upper part in the yellow area belonging to China and some part in Myanmar. In India, especially in Northeast, the upper part of Brahmaputra river system, Yalung Sanpo in China. In China territory, they also have many of hydropower dam too. Belonging to that international water conclave, many of the presenter they're talking about that, but they're not deeply to blame China. They're just talking this. We have the upstream hydropower dam. Why they not blame? Because they need to construct the hydropower dam too in the highland of India. They're focusing in the Meghalaya state. Why Meghalaya? Because of Meghalaya is high plateau. Average of elevation is 1,500 meters from the sea level. You're thinking in the southern part of Meghalaya is Bangladesh. The Ganges and Brahmaputra Delta is very got the problem with the flood in the monsoon season. And the northern part is Brahmaputra river bank in Assam. That is, Meghalaya is very significantly for the government to develop the hydropower dam. I quickly to skip many of my slides because Ajahn Kanokwan already said about MRC or many of the. This is the mountainous area in Laos. It looks similar like in condition of hill area in the northeastern part of India, but belonging to the Belt and Road initiative of China. Many of tributary or the mainstream in Laos is already developed to be the hydropower dam, to be the logistic route between any country in the Indo-Chinese region to China. And if we compare about Thailand and Northeast India, something is very similar. We also have rich in terms of culture. We have Austro-Asiatic, we have Thai Gadai, we have Sino-Tibetan. And my Indian colleague, look, this is from the Angkor Wat, right? The base and the head decorate, it looks similar like the local people in Meghalaya too. This Hill tribe in northern part of Thailand and also in the highland of Laos. Skip too fast. Belonging to the lower part of Mekong project, I show to the conference we have the good chance to do the collaboration. Since 2006, we got the grant from the Nagao Environmental Foundation to do the intensively observation field survey in terms of fish and fishery. That means we are biologists, but we need to directly communicate with the local people, because fish is so very significant of the food security in our lower part of Mekong region. And we are across the conflict. At that time we run the project. We have the land conflict with Cambodia. We fighting along the border, but we don't have problem to do the project at that time. And we do something like the correction museum to accumulate the fish specimen. It's so really significant because back in the day, in the colonial period, in Europe, they send many of the scientists go to everywhere and collect the fauna and flora and keep in the National History Museum. But we lack the opportunity to do something look similar like in our region. That means we lack our something like the livelihood or our knowledge in terms of our national resources. For myself, when I master degree student, we need to have comparative study belonging to the original paper and our research paper. All of original paper written by the European in the colonial period. The Thai specimen keeping in French or in United Kingdom since more than 200 years ago. And we try to do something like the fit field guidebook for the local to identify their own natural resources. We have bilingual fit field guidebook. In Thai, we have Thai and English. In Lao English. In Cambodia English, something like that. I skip, this is the, and we just starting try to do the website relation with the observation field survey sampling site, included the livelihood or other biological parameter with the specimen that we got for each timeline. This in Ubon, for example, the Mekong giant catfish. I took this photograph in 1995. At that time, my size is so slim. But after I live here in Ubon Ratchathani, my size is same size with the Mekong giant catfish. And Ubon Ratchathani very significantly about the Mekong giant catfish. Why? In 1968 to 1969 to 1970, in the rainy season, adult site Mekong Ganga catfish migrate from Mekong mainstream to Ubon Ratchathani downtown. That have the photograph. Yeah, skip this Mekong Ganga catfish. The fish. Oh, this is the spawning ground of one threatened species in the Mekong, iconic for sustainability fishing. And the effect of the global warming in 2018 compared with 2019. In July is the rainy season, but if you observe the Chi River, you can see the sandbar. That means it's drought effect. But in the September, in the same year, heavy rain, and we got the flood. And we have the figure to show the red area, the flood area in Ubon Ratchathani. And we have many of the traditional fishing gear, very selective. And I got opportunity to do the research with USAID project, DNA analysis to confirm about the migratory route of the indigenous species, to compare between the Moon River and the head river of Sarepok in Vietnam, Central Plateau. They have a lot of hydropower dam, don't have the fit ladder or fit way. And the Payon, Pangasius macronima is isolate population. I skip. Don't have time already. This is Mengalaya. Is the Chillong is the chiller. 5 degrees in the morning. This food in Chillong, I really surprised because they use the word Chadoi. If you can understand Sui language, is same. And they also consume the fermented fish. And if Ajahn Kanokwan go to this state, I think this is a paradise because the women is dominate the family. Every business, also the government sector, also researcher, always women. And belonging to the conference room, the collaborator cannot tell the presenter to stop because she don't finish her slide. And this is the scene of the fresh market in Shillong. You see a lot of the women business. Shillong is so very beautiful country. Yeah, and so they have the Mickey Mouse, look like the 3,000 bok, very similar. Yeah, it's the highland of the Meghalaya on the border with Bangladesh. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Chaiwut Gurutpan, for your good presentation. As you saw, I didn't stop you. I just informed you about the time limits. I guess we can have more time to talk about your presentation during the Q&A session. Now our next presenter is Dr. Patavi Chotanan from Ubon Ratchathani University. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. May I stand up to present my paper because it makes me powerful to present it. Good morning, everyone. My name is Patavi Chodanan. I'm from the Faculty of Political Science, Ubon Ratchathani University. Today, I would like to present my paper on the topic Development in the Mekong Rivers, States, Capital, International Political Battlefield, and Feelings of the Villagers. Before starting my presentation, I would like you to feel the voice from the villagers living along the Mekong. First, human rights have a price to pay. The more developed, the more underdeveloped. And the last, the Mekong River is not for sale. What the Mekong matters? Why Mekong are interested in everyone? First, Mekong River itself flowing through many countries like China, Thailand, Burma, Cambodia, and Vietnam. You can look at on my PowerPoint. Moreover, there are many superpower countries in the world interested and invested a lot of money in the river, especially development program, development projects. And in the Mekong River has biodiversity. There are many kinds of fish species and marine animals. About 60 million people live along the Mekong. I would like to present three main points in this PowerPoint. First, the Mekong River under the development of the state and capital. Second, the entry of powerful countries into the Mekong River and the arena of political struggle. And the third, the feelings of Mekong River project, development projects and academics. First, the Mekong River under the development of the states and capitals. I think that no country in the world don't want to develop. They want to be modernized. They want to improve the quality of their people living, right? However, if they have to use the natural resources together, I have a question to ask. If many countries can get access to natural resources simultaneously, how will the resources be allocated? And the second, how much will local people there benefit from using those countries' natural resources? I will take you to the Mekong River and people living in the Mekong. What happened in the Mekong? I agree that all countries bordering the Mekong River use the resources of the Mekong River to develop their own states. However, they pay little attention to protecting the resources and the livelihoods of people in the Mekong River. There is debate on dam construction in the Mekong River. There are about 25 dams in the river in Mekong in 2022. In China, there are 14 dams, and in the lower Mekong River countries, there are 11 dams. In the debate, from the state perspective, dams help produce electricity for domestic use or sell it to bring money for the country. And in another perspective, from the local people and academics, dam cause damage to natural resources and the way of life of the people in that area. Which one do you like to choose? Which one do you want to support? The states or the local people? There are a lot of problems arising in the Mekong River, like Ajahn Kanokwan mentioned earlier in the previous session, such as the Mekong River has changed its color from brown to clear blue color. What happened in the Mekong? There are some fish species disappear. Moreover, there are more flooding in the Mekong. And more importantly, it's going to be built a dam, Phungoi Dam, in the Laos. And many academics believe that will cause damage to the Mekong, and fish in the Mekong and Ubon Ratchathani will be under the water if the dam occurs. My second point, the entry of powerful countries into the Mekong River and the arena of political struggle. Could you guess which country came to the Mekong first? Maybe India, because we share culture. But in the modern state, France came to the Mekong first. Bowie from France came to the Mekong to explore the Mekong River to find a way to go to the China. After that, France expanded its influence to the country in the Mekong like Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, and make them to protectionist states under the France. And then, after the World War II, France retreated from the Mekong, and many countries in the Mekong declared the independence from the colony. However, during the World War II, Japan came to the Southeast Asia to expand their power and intrude to many countries in the Mekong. So Japanese soldiers set up in Ubon Ratchathani in order to use the Mekong cross to Laos and Vietnam. After the World War II, Japan retreated from the Southeast Asia because it was defeated of the World War II. But then, during the Cold War, the USA, the United States of America, came to the Southeast Asia according to the continent policy, because they really wanted to counter communist influence. America worked with Thai government and spent a lot of money to implementing development project in the northeastern part of Thailand. In the northeastern part of Thailand, there was a development plant, there was a university like Khon Kaen, which was established in 2000 in the Cold War period. And Americans invested a lot of money for building dams in northern part of Thailand. During the late Cold War and after the Cold War, Japan came back again to the Southeast Asia and spent a lot of money, invest a lot of money for funding, for granting for academics to implement a development project in order to promote economic, agriculture, and project their images in the international politics. However, after the Cold War, the U.S. retreated from the Southeast Asia, and it's come back again in the Obama government. The U.S. adopted policy to counteract the China's influences that expanded to the Southeast Asia, because China looked at Southeast Asia as its backyard. China spent a lot of money to Laos and Cambodia and supported to build dam in Mekong. I think this Mekong become a battlefield of the powerful countries. And the last point, my last point, the feelings of Mekong people, development project and academics. There are a lot of development projects, a lot of training programs, a lot of funds from many countries which are interested in Mekong. Why do the more countries develop the river, the worst local people living in the area get? Why? I heard from local villager in living along the Mekong, the more developed, the more underdeveloped. And I really like the saying said by Ajahn Kanokwan. This saying is her title book อีสานหลังการพัฒนาไข้ทันสมัยไข้แน่แต่บ่คัก I don't want to translate. If you want to know, please buy her book. Okay, I would like to jump to my conclusion. Please look at this, my PowerPoint, this chart. I draw a V-shaped circle in the Mekong River. First, each state always thinks of its own interest more than its people interest. And that affects the superpower countries enter into the Mekong to use as a playground for international political struggle. Academic receive funding, receive money from superpower countries to implement development projects, right? For helping, for uplifting the quality of local people's life. But the projects have a short term, 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years. When the academic retreated from the field because of the money, the project has ended or run out of the money. What happened? The villager people rise, maybe come back to the normal again. And the project built hopes and destroy hope of local people because local people think, oh, when they have a training project, development project, a lot of money from the foreign country into the area, oh, we will have a better life. But when the project stops, everything returns to the normal. Maybe. However, the government, such as Thailand, condemn academics who receive funding or money from the other countries. Yeah, you will undermine the nation. You will undermine the country. You don't see the benefits of nation. You encourage local people against the government's project, like building dam. And next, project build legitimacy and create good images in international political game of the superpower that fund them. Because the funding has a purpose. When the academic receive the money or the grant, you have to follow the purpose. You have to implement project according to the purpose. And last is building hope and destroy hope of local people at the same time because it's a short-term project. That's why, back to the first step, each state always think of its own interest more than its people interest. This is vicious circle. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Chotanam. You made your presentation in the forefront, so you escaped from my warnings, but it was no need to warn you because you were strict on time. Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And the topic that you presented is quite an important one. As a political scientist, it was totally hitting my interest. Our next presenter is Dr. Pianat Soykan from Ubon Ratchathani University. The floor is yours, Pianat.
Thank you very much, Professor Erhan, and very good morning, everyone. After listening to all the panelists in our panel, I feel like, so we will start from Ajahn Thitipon, who draws some information about major powers in in Mekong, and Dr. Shai Wood, he already mentioned about possibility like the similarity culture between not East India and also like Thailand that we have, and Ajahn Patawi already mentioned about development and maybe external powers. So my point, I might come to the point that about the India, Thailand and the Mekong relations. So let me give you a brief overview of Thailand and India relation into 4 phases. The first phase, I think that we have the cultural and historical ties for more than 2,000 and 3,000 years. And Ubon Ratchathani also the place where we can connect it back to Indian civilization and culture. If you look at the first photo on top, we having the sitting Ratchathani ritual, only one in Southeast Asia, perhaps in the world, which is the Indian god and deities in the Ubon Ratchathani museum, only here in Ubon Ratchathani. So India and Thailand, we're not something that far away from each other, but we back for 2,000 years. We see so many things. We have Ganesha, we have the Hindu deities in our old museum. And if you go to Nam Yuen district in Ubon, we have the Narai, Vishnu under the water. So we found here in Ubon Ratchathani, and it's not just only in Ubon, perhaps in Laos, in Vietnam, we also having some kind of Indian civilization in the region. So cultural and historical tie, yes, we hear. So it's not something new that we have to build the connectivity. And especially during the colonial time, we also faced with the imperial power in the region. The British, the French coming to our region. So we share the sentiment of anti-imperialism, and we share that. I think the Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, and also Ho Chi Minh, they also share the commitment, the sentiment of the fight for sovereignty during the time. But during the Cold War, the situation a bit changed. For Thailand and the member of ASEAN nation, it feels that Thailand and other 5 countries, the founding member of ASEAN, it seemed to be they were pro the American or the pro the US bloc, while Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam, they seem more with the Soviet or communist bloc, and also India also a part of like maybe non-alignment, but have a good relation, had a good relation with the Soviet Union, and also Cambodia, Laos and Vietnam. So during the Cold War, Thailand was separated from India due to the ideological aspect. So during the Cold War, we're not in a good mood between India and Thailand. But after 1992, when the Cold War ended, what happened? India also looking at the new dimension for regional cooperation. It started look east policy from India. The look east policy, it means look toward Southeast Asia, look toward Thailand. And also Thailand, we had our own foreign policy called look west policy, that the Thailand want to look west, which India also like locate in the western part of Thailand. So since then, 1992 onwards, we have more cordial and friendship relation between India, Thailand, and also India and the whole Southeast Asia. This is the overview of India and Thailand relation that I'm giving to you. I think we already talked about the diversity, culture, and also, but my point, I'm going to talk about the 6th dimension or the 6th aspect in the future that India and Thailand and the Mekong can work together, can collaborate for future collaboration. Firstly, I think we could not deny the fact that in the future or the nearly future, India will become one, maybe the one, now we know that India is the largest in terms of population. India is the big market, 1.4 billion. Thinking about bringing something from Thailand, bringing something from Southeast Asia, selling 1.4 billion people, and 3 million of India not 3 million, 300 million, they also are part of like the billionaires people having more money to spend. And they're not the age society. Now the younger generation, the working age of India is become like, I think, like the majority of Indian people now. So India become the big market. So it's opportunity for us as well. And also the Indian tourists that coming to Thailand. Secondly, I think the policy statement of the Council of the Ministers led by Prime Minister Sethar Thavisin also put India as one of the key partner in the Thailand foreign policy. So the future Thailand and India will be more collaboration in terms of foreign policy. And next point, thinking about bolstering people-to-people contact. Currently, we are having 6 India study centers in Thailand. One in Chulalongkorn University, in Thammasat University, in Mahidol University, and Silpakorn University. So 4 universities, the key university, the principal university in Thailand, having the Indian study centers. One in the northern part of Thailand in Chiang Mai University, and we have only one of its kinds in northeast Thailand in Ubon Ratchathani University. And I let you know that today, actually 3 years ago, is the first, is the establishment day of the Indian Study Center. Such a coincidence that I'm talking here today in the same day. So we have one India Study Center here in Ubon Ratchathani on 2nd March in 2021, so 3 years back. So now we become more engagement because all the Indian study centers, we come together and we have the Thailand network for Indian studies. Next thing, I think at the moment there's so many movie and influencers from Thailand and also from India that travel toward each other. There's so many blogger or YouTuber from Thailand going to India, visiting Jaipur and seeing portraying or filming the new idea of India. Is not just only Bodh Gaya, it's not just only Varanasi, but different version of India from Himalaya, Kashmir, the seaside, Goa, and also like Ajahn Shai would also our ambassador of Ubon to Northeast India. So there's so many new things happen and we learn from each other. And now Indian people not know Thailand just only Pattaya or Phuket or Bangkok. Now Indian people are moving or coming to other different province in Thailand. So I think movie and social media also will gain more momentum in people-to-people contact. And now Indian people also get the visa exemption. So more tourists from India will come to Thailand, and the negotiation between the Thailand Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, he just went to India last week. They negotiate to get the free visa for Thai people to visit India. So I think if it happens, there will be increase more people-to-people contact. The third point that I'm going to mention is maritime neighbors in action. When we read through our history books or social science books, we talk about Thailand neighbors. And we recognize 4 countries as a Thailand neighboring countries. Can you guess 4 countries? Thailand neighboring country. One is Laos PDR. Second, Myanmar. Third, no, Vietnam. We not share border. Cambodia. And the southern part, Malaysia. These countries just only the land border neighboring countries. But if you look at the maritime border, the country that we share maritime border, India and Thailand, we also share the maritime border near Phuket at Andaman Sea. Yeah, so actually Thailand and India, we are also the neighboring country, but looking at the maritime connectivity. We also are part of Indo-Pacific strategy where connecting the India Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. And to connecting the two oceans, the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, Southeast Asia and the Mekong region is the connecting hub between the two oceans that we expect for the future collaboration that we can work under the Indo-Pacific region, and also the concept of land bridge that I mentioned. The Deputy Prime Minister of Thailand went to India and they discussed with the Indian Foreign Minister. One thing that they discussed more about the land bridge project in the southern part of Thailand, connecting Chumpon and Krabi, I think in the southern part. And the Indian businessman and Indian government also interested in this project because it's the place where we can connect the Indian Ocean, so that maybe like from India through the land bridge and also going to the Gulf of Thailand and also heading to the Pacific Ocean. That's another aspect that we can work together in the future. And also not only the maritime connectivity, now there are also the project, actually it's more than 10 years back already, about the India-Myanmar trilateral highway. So it connects from India, Moreh, in the northeast India, where Ajahn Chai would visit, from Moreh, India, Manipur, and then through Myanmar, from Susan come from Myanmar, and then coming to Thailand at Mae Sot, Tak province, and from Tak province we have the east-west economic corridor connecting from Tak to Pisnulok, Phetchabun, Khon Kaen, Mukdahan, Swarnaket, and go through Laos and then Vietnam. So there's some connectivity between India and then to the Mekong. Now I think 98% of the trilateral highway is done already, but only some kind of the law, the signal, because the driving the way and some legal issue that we have to work on it. But thinking about today, we are in Ubon and we drive to Tak overnight at Tak, and then to Myanmar, Mandalay, having some Burmese food, and then spend overnight from Yangon, and then the next day reaching Manipur, India. Sound fantastic and sound let me yeah, that also the things that we can work together. And also this connectivity will connect the Ganga to the Mekong physically from the route. And Thailand Ministry of Foreign Affairs also focus 3 northeast states that we want to work with. One is Assam, where it's the biggest, so being a hub of economic activity. And the second is Meghalaya for tourism, and Manipur as the connecting point from Moreh, India to Myanmar and Southeast Asia. So I don't think we need to establish or create a new dynamic or the new mechanism. We already having some mechanism, we already having some regional, sub-regional organization. We having Mekong Ganga Corporation, we have BIMSTEC, we have ASEAN India that already, how to say, functioning. But what we are going to do more about giving more, how to say, like dynamics, momentum into the existing elements and the function that we have. And not only that, I think when the Pheu Thai government coming back into power, they're also thinking about bringing back the idea of the ACMEX, which is the Irrawaddy, Chao Phraya and Mekong Economic Cooperation Strategy, ACMEX, which is the, I think it's the Mekong region country, and try to like, how to say, separate the Mekong from the external power. Yeah, Ajahn Thitipon talked about the US Mekong, Lan Chang Mekong, or India Mekong, or US Japan Mekong. So I think ACMEC is the one of the key Thailand foreign policy, try to like work with the Mekong country by itself. But one point that ACMEC just point in the new direction of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the government of Thailand, that ACMEC also need a kind of ACMEC plus for the partner for the partner. So India become the ACMEC plus for ACMEC country for the future collaboration with the South Asian continent. Yes, I think everyone already talked in this room about voicing Global South, human-centric and sustainable development. I think so many cases that we can learn from each other from India and the Mekong. Yes, we have like some technology from the developed country like Japan, like the US or like the European Union, but it's from the developed country point of view. But what India and the Mekong can work together, because India also like developing itself from the developing country into the emerging power. I think this is a very important lesson that we can learn from each other, how we can develop. And I think we understand how we feel because we pass through the developing process. And I think the Global South cooperation will be something that we can work together for Thailand and India and the Mekong relation. I think I'm stop here for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Pianat. We have listened all of the presenters, and they were touching quite important dimensions of the regional development and how international organizations, different regional actors, cooperation among those actors would contribute to the future development of the region. Now I would like to open the floor for Q&A session. So we have roughly 10 to 15 minutes and we can receive some questions and further develop our discussion. So, any question? Yes. Give this mic.
Thank you for all of you. Let me clarify myself. I think India is going to be a big, powerful country in the world in the future, right? That's I think I conclude from some of yours first, but I'm not sure which year, like their vision in 5 years, 10 years or not. I'm not sure, but 30. No, I don't think so. I think 5 years. And second, I wonder what India wants from Thailand, like such as economic cooperation. We may imagine how connection between economic, but I'm not sure how local people will get something from India. Maybe travel, tourism, but it's belong to the capitalists, I think. But I'm not sure which product India expect from Thai or Thailand expect to sending something to India with. Please clarify. Thank you.
But if you look at India, perhaps I would put it this way, because I think India is expected to be the third largest economy in 2030. And so how can we actually benefit from the engagement of India? And perhaps I didn't actually mention what these frameworks are, because if you look at the GMS, we have the US Mekong Partnership, Mekong Ganga Cooperation, Lanchang Mekong Cooperation, and Japan Mekong Cooperation. And all of this framework actually are focusing on healthcare services, environment, community, empowering local communities, and education, and all of the basic things that are the primary concerns of these countries, like Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. So In relation to India engagement, so this is what we would also benefit from the Mekong Ganga cooperation. So perhaps we cannot directly benefit from businesses straight away, but then also if you look at the volume of trade between Thailand and India, Thailand is also trying to expand trade relations with India as well. So that is another element that we would gain. But in terms of the collaborations between India and regional countries, I think these are the benefits that we would perhaps benefit more. And if we talk about specific products, but actually last year India actually just if I remember correctly, India's made the biggest purchase in the world with the aircraft, with the signing the contract to purchase, I think 400 something or 400 something aircraft from Airbus and 400 something from Boeing. So that was also the balance of power between India with France and India with the US, because Boeing is with the US and Airbus is from France. So that is also another dimension. But if you look at the future with this business, with the expansion of the aerospace business in India, so India would look for destinations, and so where would they go? And there are many businesses and many places to go, and that is what Thailand perhaps can also benefit from that as well. And Ubon Ratchathani, when we look at this region in particular, because Thailand is one of the most attractive destinations for Indian to marry, because and Phuket is the destination at the moment, and we have seen the expansion of businesses that Indian people have, like wedding ceremonies in Phuket, and so this is another opportunity for Ubon Ratchathani itself, perhaps because on the border that is also quite attractive to many people as well. So this is another thing that we could look at with the expansion of tourism industry and the expansion of the aerospace business in India.
Okay, thank you. I guess seeking a balanced development in the region is one of the most critical points here, because if you lost that balance, it would lead to massive human mobility in the region. For the moment, the center of attraction for the region is Thailand, I guess, if I'm not mistaken. And up to a certain point, this is helping Thailand to improve, Thailand economy to improve. However, if it exceeds some certain levels, it would really lead to a lot of social, economic, and political fault lines, which would create further problems in the region. So better to develop together. All the countries in the region develop together would be the wise perspective, I guess. Any other questions?
Yeah, actually, perhaps I can add something as well, because if you look at the visit of the Foreign Minister of Thailand to India in the past week, and the other thing that we also have to look at, actually at Ubon Ratchathani University, we have Faculty of Pharmaceutical, and they also have they have been focusing on Thai's traditional herbal medicines. That is one of the strengths that we have in the country. And if I understand correctly, the Thai government actually signed the agreement to collaborate with Ayurveda Center in Jaipur. And that is also similar to what we have in the country as well. So if this collaboration move on and succeed, then that would be also another benefit that we would gain from collaboration with India.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I don't have question. I just would like to share something, maybe briefly, 1 minute. So I think cooperations between India and Mekong and Ganga countries is very, very good and very important for boosting economy. At the same time, we have also need to think about the unintended consequences socially, culturally, even, for example, human trafficking. Among the Mekong countries, human trafficking is such a critical problem and challenge, and we need a lot of mechanisms or policy to come up with social protection of those who call the victim of this corporation. So I'm not sure about this, but I don't need the answer. But if you would like to share the views, you're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, contributions? Students can ask in Thai language and you can translate, I guess. This.
Can you call my name Frank? My name is Kitipum Nongkam. My faculty is political science. I'm fine for the question. My question is, and I see in the yesterday, what is the main of the worst thing in Thailand, Myanmar that we see with the dam from Chinese, and I want to know how can we fix that. Thank you.
It's a very difficult question to answer because the Thai government cannot fix this. Fix it. In my opinion, I think in Thailand we have to empower people living in the Mekong, and we have to push up the ASEAN mechanism to push more pressure on other countries in the Mekong. Right, and I think that country in the Mekong River have to be united, and we will be more powerful to against China when they build dam. This is my ideal, but in the reality it's very difficult because each country has autonomy, has sovereignty, and think about its interest first. But I have no answer to answer your question.
I need to share my opinion about this question. When I joined the international meeting in Guangxi, the co-funder is American and China. They co-fund together. But the interrelated issue is they have the session about the negative impact of the regulation, water regulation. They also showcase of the Yangtze River. It's iconic, the water regulation in China. And the researcher who presented is not American, Chinese researcher. That means the Chinese government, they also concerned. If they're not concerned, they don't open the opportunity. This is the international conference. I used to attend some of the symposium or conference about the dam in the upper part of Mekong. We saw only the figure of the dam site, but when I attend the meeting in China, they showed something like the effect of eutrophication, the algae boom in the storage area of the dam in the upper part of Mekong. That means if we get something like the international level link, like in case of India, when I joined the international conference Water Concave, they also need some link to negotiation to get the good, something like the integrated result. That is my opinion.
Can I just add one point? Because when you look at the problem of the dams, we have seen all of the blame to China. Of course, I agree with that. China is the main cause of the problem with the dams, with the upper level of the Mekong Basin. But then the other actors, regional actors here, I think this is Thailand. Thailand also have to take more responsibility. That is one of the main problems. Because if you look at one of the biggest dam in the lower Mekong Basin, the Inchayaburi Dam, that was actually built by Chokan Chang, that is owned, and it's I think over 90% of the electricity was signed in the contract to sell back to Thailand. So we are actually taking advantage of that. But the Thai government also try to deny that and try not to touch on it with the Thai investment, and if Champasak area, and I think in the presentation of Champatui, we have the list of the dams as well. So and I'm not very optimistic about the roles of Thailand, because if you look at this government, the government is trying to expand its investment in Laos, and if you look at the visit of Prime Minister Sethar, he went to Laos twice. So with this visit, it's make me question about the intention to solve the environmental problem here, because Thailand hasn't shown any responsibility, and I think Thailand should be the main actor to take action here as well. Thank you.
Can I add on to Professor Kanokwan already mentioned? Yes, that's very important, because when mobility, people moving around, there's so many consequences following. But I think in terms of the government, they're also trying to get more on laws, on like international, regional, some procedure in order to make it more. But how to say, like, if like non-traditional security, the immigrant people or even Rohingya from South Asia also having like migrate to our place. So I think that one also the big concern as well, and I think they're also thinking a lot about this before the trilateral highway or other connectivity happens. And I want to add on about the problem. I think water issues, I think it's the classic problem of all mankind history. For example, like in India, we think a lot about like the Kashmir issue. It's the issue between Pakistan and India about like the Muslim and Hindu conflict. But when we look and deeply inside between the Kashmir, I think it's not only about the ethnic or religious, but it's about the water resource management, because the water river from the Kashmir riverine will be running to the whole area of Pakistan. So that the reason might be the big issue that why they're fighting for Kashmir as the land that belong to the water resource. And that also one point that I want to discuss it. And the next point, I think in India, I think I have learned from Professor Kanokwan as well about the river right. The right to the river right, like the Ganga, also having some announcement or some process to give the right to the river as a human being. I think this also another important point that we can learn from each other. Like Mekong has a Mekong right, Ganga also has a Ganga right. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. It was a very nice session in my opinion. I hope you share my thoughts too. I guess we have to stop here because we are way over our program. I would like to thank you all for your participation and for the contributions of the audience, and have a nice lunch and afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very fruitful discussion for all the speakers and the facilitator. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have come to the end of the conference. I know everyone is very hungry now, but before we go to lunch, can I have a few minutes, please? May I invite Assistant Professor Dr. Piyanat Choi come on the stage one more time to, on behalf of the organizing committee, to give some closing remarks, please.
Thank you very much. Let me give this opportunity on behalf of Ubon Ratchathani University, the President Chutinan Prasit Puri Prisha, and the Vice President of Research, Professor Thuntong Chutaket. On behalf of Ubon Ratchathani University, allow me to give the vote of thanks for everyone in the room, for our delegates, presenters, distinguished guests, and also our students to join us together to strengthen the Mekong Ganga cooperation at the International Conference on Mekong Ganga Development in Regional Transition and Uncertainty. First of all, I would like to compliment, and in my role now as the university representative, first of all, I would like to compliment the success of this conference, international conference, that bringing scholars to discuss various issues, especially on development and poverty in the region, and bringing scholars from all over the world coming together and discuss about the Mekong Ganga relations. Secondly, I would like to thank all the distinguished guests from the first day, Professor Shutinan Prasit Puripisha, our president, who gave the opening speech, Associate Professor Dr. Surasak Kamkong, the Dean, Faculty of Liberal Arts, Ubon Ratchathani University, who giving the welcome remark, and also Dr. Siripon Chantanas Kunwong, the Dean of Political Science, who be with us on the first day. And big thanks to Dr. M. Shivaguru, Counselor Political and Alternate Deputy Permanent Representative to UNESCO, to giving the keynote address on Mekong Ganga in the transition. We also thanking Associate Professor Dr. Amita Motwani, who fly from India to be with us and being the keynote speaker on the social construction of poverty in India. And also Professor Emeritus Professor Dr. Surishai Wankeo from Chulalongkorn University, our beloved professor, who gave a keynote speech on marginalization and SDG, who provoked our thought and idea. Then I would like to thank all panelists and speakers in all panels. The panel of poverty in Thailand, Associate Professor Dr. Kanokwan Manorom from Ubon Ratchathani University. Actually, 10 years back, we met at the Srinthorn Anthropology Center. I invite Professor to join, and now we work together at Ubon Ratchathani. So I'm honored to be with you, Professor Kanokwan, and we learn a lot from you. And Associate Professor Pinwadi Sisupan and Dr. Chantha Thana Wathanawong, Ajahn Thawat Manipong from Ubon Ratchathani University. And after that, we have the wonderful presentation panel, Development in India and the Mekong. Susan from Myanmar, she gave the idea on the Laotian community, the cross-border. Dr. Abdul Rahman Mukem from Institute of Asian Study, who is our partner of this conference. He talked about the diaspora in South and Southeast Asia. And Ajahn Sutida Taller, she gave the very beautiful of multicultural, pluralistic society in Ubon Ratchathani. Then Alex Lu Wenjin, he talked about the human rights in ASEAN. Then we have two cases, the comparative study of the food security and also energy security from Professor Buntiwa Pungklat and Dr. Srin Patha Wathanawong. And we learn about the board games and from Kun Rattikon Uttikon, Diaster and Resilience from board games. Thank you very much. And we have the wonderful facilitator, Professor Valentina from Moldova State University. Thank you very much. Then we have the reception at Nguyen Kamnan. Thank you very much for Faculty of Liberal Arts and the Center of Mekong at the Faculty of Liberal Arts that can bring us together and talk and chit chat, not only for this room. Then in this early morning, I think we have a very wonderful and insightful and critical and also fruitful discussion on the plenary session on poverty in the Equator world by Professor Catherine Barnes from Toulouse University, Professor Kanokwan Manorom from Ubon Ratchathani, and Dr. Amita Motwani from University of Delhi, and Dr. Thanachet. Actually, he just fly back from Chiang Mai. Yesterday he was in Chiang Mai, but this morning he with us at the conference. And following with the toward 25 year of Mekong Ganga cooperation that facilitated by Professor Dr. Erhan Dogan from Marmara University, Istanbul, Turkey, and four speakers from Ubon Ratchathani. But not quite surprised, but I very deeply and feeling super happy that Dr. Titipon, Dr. Chaiwut, and Professor Pattavi that are from Ubon Ratchathani, we learn more about India, and we will try to engage India and the Mekong in the panel discussion. And yes, I thanks a lot for all presenters, all speakers, and our key message that we have today and yesterday discussion. I think Mekong Ganga all over the world, we also facing with the poverty and development issue. We still have to think about it. But what we can looking at our nearly neighboring country or neighboring partner, I think India also one of the key important actor that going to have a more role in the future. So we could like develop and discuss more. And last but not least, on behalf of the Ubon Ratchathani University, we have an aim. We have our aims to be a university to uplift the quality of life of the people. And we would like to thank the two centers, the two key research center of Ubon Ratchathani. Firstly, the Mekong Social Science Research Center at the Faculty of Liberal Arts, Ubon Ratchathani University, led by Professor Kanokwan Manorom. Please give a big hand for Professor Kanokwan, her team, and Professor Pinwadi, and all staff from Liberal Arts who arranged this wonderful conference, and also the co-host by the India Studies Center of Ubon Ratchathani University, led by Assistant Professor Buntiwa Pongkat, the Deputy Director who arranged, and her team. So I think we it's the first time that we work together, and I know that the future we can collaborate. And lastly, my word, thank you very much everyone to joining for the Mekong Ganga development in regional transition and uncertainty. We wish you have a safety flight back home, and thank you once again to be a part of our conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Assistant Professor Dr. Pianat Soikam. And that concludes. Yes, please.
Yeah. Dear colleagues, I'd like to express my huge gratitude for invitation, for excellent organization. Together we are a team. Together we can transform challenges and opportunities. We created excellent space for discussion, for very nice feeling. And I wish to be together for a long time, to work together, to cooperate. In Moldova, as today, it was the first day of spring. We have a very nice tradition, Mărțișor, red and white, love and prosperity. I would like to wish to all of you love, prosperity, healthy, and happiness here. Thanks a lot for your cooperation. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Professor Valentina. Okay. It's lunchtime. Everyone can have lunch now. But last request, when you leave the room, you may see the QR code in front of the room for the evaluation. So please scan the QR code and evaluate the conference. Thank you very much for everyone joining the conference. Good luck. Thank you. Bye.